Hi, my name's Elizabeth Kwant and I'm pleased to be mixing it up with you today. I'll let you see the bowl. Okay, first question. Which three artists do you think are ones to watch? It's a great question. The first artist would be Elsa James, who's an Essex-based performer and filmmaker. The second would be Seke Msheche. Seke is a Scottish Zimbabwean artist. She will be representing Zimbabwe at the Venice Biennial soon, so keep an eye out for her. And finally, the last artist would be Daniel and Clara. Daniel and Clara are artist filmmakers and working with performance and the body and the landscape. I'll let you see, give it a good mix. Okay, next question. Which three curators do you think are ones to watch? The three curators that I am watching. Currently, I'm really looking forward to seeing Lisa Anderson's exhibition, which is called Soulscapes at Dulwich Picture Gallery. The next curator would be, I think, Christine Ayen. She's recently curated a show at Kunsthal Charlottenburg in Copenhagen called Colonialism in the History of Botanical Collecting. And finally, Echo Eshun. Echo Eshun curated the show We Are History at Somerset House Studios. And he recently has a show at the National Portrait Gallery called The Time Is Always Now. I'm really looking forward to seeing that next time I'm down in London. Okay, next question. Can you tell us about your work with female survivors of modern day slavery in your project, Am I Not a Woman and a Sister? Yes. That project began actually in 2018 with discussions with the International Slavery Museum and national charity City Hearts and choreographer Magdalene Bartlett Luembeya. And we worked with a group of female survivors of modern day slavery over the course of 3 months. And we facilitated movement workshops with the ladies as a way for them to have space and agency to move their own bodies and to respond to the history of slavery through personal experience. So that was actually my experience of working with those ladies. It was quite difficult, if I'm honest. It took a long time for us to put things in place to begin working with the ladies. There was a lot of paperwork, there was a lot of safeguarding, and in the contract we had to be mindful of things like we couldn't show their face, their names, or you couldn't even have their voices be heard in the film. So there were quite a few barriers to overcome, especially when making a film work which is highly visual and obviously has sound. So we had many discussions with the ladies about how they wanted to represent themselves. I think one of the reasons that I wanted to work with women who are survivors of trafficking was the fact that in their bodies they had experienced enslavement. And so as we looked back to try and better understand the history of the transatlantic slave trade, I felt that they would be able to identify with the history and the stories in a way in which I couldn't, or a way in which a modern person couldn't, because we'd never experienced enslavement. I think the women really enjoyed the movement workshops. Many of them came back and when we took them to the private view at the Slavery Museum for the install, they were really proud to see themselves on screen. I still remember when we took them to Howard House near Leeds, which is a place in the film where we invited the women to perform privately in this old house, which was built on the profits of the transatlantic slave trade, particularly from rum and sugar in Barbados. And we had a private tour of the house with the women by the house manager, and I still remember taking these ladies around the house, and they're just staring up at the gilded gold ceilings and just really in awe of the lavishness. And then we had some really funny comments where a few of the ladies asked, you know, do they do sleepovers here, and how can we stay here, how can we marry a prince, you know, what does it take to get a house like this? So that was really funny, and they were great conversations on the way home in the car. Let's move on. Okay, next question. Oh, good question. Where would you most like to create or show a piece of work? So I'm particularly interested through my work in responding to sites whose history is inextricably linked to British colonialism. I think my work in many ways is kind of unearthing the past. I'm thinking about land ownership. I'm thinking about the female body in relation to the land and its history. I'm thinking about healing and collaboration. Is it even possible to speak of healing from colonial histories? And I'd love to show work on both sides of the Atlantic. I've been making a body of work in Cumbria, where I'm from, for the last 2 years, and the work is responding to the history of the sites in Cumbria where they traded with the Caribbean and America, and there's so many links between Cumbria, particularly the west coast of Cumbria, which was highly industrial and which has in the past had huge ports which imported goods from the Caribbean and the States. And I'd love to be able to make those connections through collaborations, through exhibitions, to make those links in a way which is positive, which is unearthing the past and thinking forward to the future. I'd also really love to work with some Indian artists who I met a few years ago on a residency, and again to look at the legacy of colonialism in India, but to do that in collaboration with local artists and to learn from them, to work alongside them. Yeah, I'd really love to be able to do that. Okay, I think we've got time for one final question. Oh, we've done that one already. Let's choose a different one. Oh, can you describe the first piece of artwork you remember seeing? Yeah. Oh, that's a really difficult question. You know, I think one of the first pieces of work that I remember seeing as a child was in my granny's house. And my granny was Irish Catholic, and she used to have trinkets and kind of sentimental religious objects around her house. And I particularly remember on her stairs she had a statue of Jesus with bleeding hands, and this used to really freak me out as a kid. I never liked going up her stairs because of this statue. That would be one of my earliest memories of you know, artwork, even object-based artwork. I think more recently, one of the artworks as an artist which has impacted me the most has been the work of Shireen Nishat, and I particularly remember experiencing her dual projection film Rapture in Berlin when I was at university and writing about her work. And what impacted me about her work was her use of space and how the film work was installed so that the viewer was immersed and participated in deciphering between the screens. And in many ways, I think this kind of replicated her position in exile as an artist who'd been Iranian artist living in the States in exile, couldn't go back to Iran. And she kind of created this third space in her films, which was the space in between. Some people say like a bicultural space, a space in which she herself as an artist in exile was inserted in, and in a space in which we as the viewer enter into and read between the screens. And I think the ideas around that and around space and around moving image and the experience of it have really impacted my work and how I think about my work. Okay, I think we're finished. I just want to thank you for coming and listening. Thank you for mixing it up with me today. If you want to follow my work, you can find me at Elizabeth Kwant Studio. Bye.